Can you guys introduce Mommy?
Spill the beans with Dr. Jill.
Hi, everyone. Thank you for joining us today for Spill the Beans with Dr. Jill. This guest has the Longevity Award. This is someone that has, of all of the participants so far, this one actually has known me the longest. So I'm going to take that away from Dan Hareda, which was, I think, a couple of guests ago, and give it to this one. So I welcome them to the platform and would love for them to introduce themselves.
Hi, everyone. I am Kelly K. Hope. I am the Associate Dean of Student Development at Connecticut Community College Capitol Campus. And I am so excited to be having this conversation with my forever co, as we refer to each other, Dr. Jill. And yeah, let's get into it.
So, Dr. Kelly, how did you ever know of vicarious trauma before I started talking to you about it?
So no. The short answer is no. The longer answer is I understood, and of course, understood and knew about vicarious interactions and experiencing things vicariously. Mm-hmm. And then I knew about trauma separately. Right. And I had experienced, talked to people about the things that we were going through, right, mm-hmm. through work and just life. But putting the two together did not even come into thought until I saw the work that you were doing when you were in your doctoral program. Yeah. And so it gave language to the experiences that both I and colleagues and students and folks that I'm just in interactions with, what we were experiencing and are experiencing.
And you're one of my only guests that have K through 12 and higher ed experience.
Okay.
So, and just to put you on the spot, do you think that the vicarious trauma is the same, just maybe different topics? Like, do you feel like there was more conversation in the K through 12 sector than higher ed about vicarious trauma? What's your opinion about that?
I think that, well, based on my experience, the ways in which vicarious trauma manifests is the same or has been the same. When I think about students, my high school students, when I was teaching in the high school setting, when I think about my college students that are coming into my office with their varying needs and listening to the conversations and their experiences, I can identify through assessment and conversation some hypervigilance that manifests and that shows up in the ways that students interact with one another, the way they interact with us as staff and teachers and educators. And so the conversations, though, are, I would say, equal. They're on par, and that is there to be desired, if I can put it that way. We'll have conversations about behaviors, but the conversations around what may be adding to a student's behavior, even a colleague's behavior, what they may be experiencing, how they're interacting in conversations, and or not interacting, right? And in conversations, the reasons that go into their experiences, I don't know that we really take enough time to really understand the ramifications and the impact that vicarious trauma can have and does have on us all, right? And students, for sure. It's the manifestation is something that I can say from high school all the way through is some of the symptoms. They're the same for sure.
It's interesting how many of our colleagues have not been taught this the way in their higher ed program or in their master's program in their discipline, and that they've had to like outsource. And so you're a supervisor that's like very well aware of what your staff might need at any given time. One of the protective factors I've been talking a lot about is the idea of you vent 3 times and then you move on. Have you heard this? Right. And so I say, like vent to a therapist, vent to a friend or someone that is like emotionally invested in you, and then a mentor, right? Like those are like traditionally who I would want. And then also the protective factor of like having a person that loves you, that, like your person, right? Have you found any other protective factors or tips on how you're navigating your vicarious trauma through your like 25-year career now.
Yeah. So I'll first say that all the protective factors that you mentioned, I'm realizing in my experience are privileges and luxuries that not everyone has, especially when I think about my student population, again, albeit high schoolers or my college students. When I think about the things that they share, not everyone has access to those three types of protective factors.
Yeah.
And I am privileged and blessed and acknowledge that I do, right? I have folks that I can vent to. I have a therapist. I have all those things. But in the absence of that, I have been encouraging my staff. I've been encouraging students when I'm meeting with them to adopt journaling, because sometimes speaking to someone is not necessarily available. And sometimes the only folks that are accessible are some of the same people who may be a part of the cause, right? And so journaling is something that I definitely encourage. And then I also, for my students, I encourage them to connect, right? The tried and true, get connected to student activities, clubs and organizations, because in most cases, it's those folks that are in those spaces where students are able to make connections in a more deeper and genuine way.
Yeah.
And so those have been some things that I've encouraged others to do. But for me personally, it is definitely, I call my parents every day as I'm driving home from work, and I'm talking to them and I'm venting. I tell my parents and the folks close to me, 91, right? Traveling from, where I live in the Hampton area to Hartford every day, that 91 connector to the Merritt Parkway gets all, of the heaviness and the trauma. And I try my best to leave it there. So I'll call and talk to my mom. I'll talk to my therapist. And I also include, my religious beliefs. I cannot, say, going to church and those things have helped me over the years, for sure.
Yeah, I'm so glad you mentioned church, because when I talk to individuals who say, I'm so busy, I can't get a mentor, I say, well, are you affiliated in any organizations? Do you have your professional organization? Do you have a church? You also have a connection with your sorority, right?
Absolutely.
So these are individuals that you had to put in the time to be connected to those organizations, but then it gives you so much of that support. Having a mentee is pretty easy to find, but it takes time to nurture that relationship. And when we talk to a mentee, we're not typically telling them the negative minutia that comes with our job, but we essentially increase our compassion satisfaction because we fall in love with our job all over again. We tell them what it was like when we first started, and we start to not acknowledge the negative stuff, because you've got somebody bright-eyed and bushy-tailed in front of you being like, I want to be you, Dr. Kelly. How do I do that? So those are other ideas. I love the journaling component. I came across a photo of us many years ago. Okay, so I'm going to show it. I don't know.
Lord.
Yeah. So
that's a throwback.
This is a throwback, but what would you tell these two younger, we were RAs, had no idea that we were going to be in higher ed forever and ever. You're now a dean, we've played different roles. What would you tell those two individuals about the vicarious trauma that they might experience, particularly because we're women?
Wow.
I know.
What would I tell? It is. And I'm getting teary-eyed, right? And I'm trying to maintain my cool in this moment, because what I would tell those two girls who were really about making it happen, doing their thing, and we were just, living it up at our SCSU days. I would tell them to leave room for themselves as we are going about the journey, and to be okay with saying no, and not having to seize every opportunity. And I would say that because I remember, and I know that we are both go-getters, and we see a need, and we can assess, and then we are simultaneously thinking about ways to make it better, right? Because when we see, let's say, inequity, injustice, when we hear, when we empathize, and we can feel what others are experiencing, we are, by nature of the way we're created, moving towards support. And in that, I've learned over the years that it can be draining, it can be tiring, it can be heavy, it can be isolating. Even when you have others that you can talk to, the actual experience itself, it's an internal one, right? It's a mental one. So I would tell those girls that it's okay to not seize every opportunity, to be selective, and to be okay with saying no while we're leaving room for ourselves. I think that's important. Yeah, it took me a little bit to understand that was a selfishness, right? I wasn't being selfish. And that I actually shared with a staff member maybe a few weeks ago. We were talking, and I said to her, I said, you all get what's running out of my cup, not what's in my cup. And she was offended by that statement. And I said, it's not that I don't give you all my best, because you all are getting my best. You all are getting everything that I can bring to the table for that day, for that conversation, for that meeting. I said, but what I realized is that I've gotten to a place where when I know that my cup is, I'm not even going to say half full, because I try not to let it get half full. But when I see that the top of my cup is not where I need it to be, I know that it's time for me to take a moment, because I am going to then default to a place where I've worked so hard to not be.
Yes.
And when I think about vicarious trauma, I think about, for myself, thinking about this idea of having to achieve. I have to do the best, be the best, and strive to be the best in all things. And if I am not doing that, it's okay, you're being lazy. You're not, you are not achieving. And so I'm constantly looking for and trying to find the next best thing. And at a point now where it's like, no, my next best thing is to ensure that my cup stays full and that it runs over with the goodness, the love, the joy, the light, the things that I want to bring into this world, so that others, when they're coming in by virtue of my job, and they're going to naturally share their experiences, their trauma, I can hopefully help absorb and help guide them through the things that are overflowing, right? The positive things that are overflowing from my cup and not the negative.
At this point in our career, we've seen the business end of the issue when you don't do that. And so what I'm talking about is institutions getting sued and human error getting into the way. I remember, and I think I told the story already, but I had a colleague, staff member of mine be like, you would be so proud of me. I had 7 judicials today. And I was like, what? Like that, in no world would I ever be proud of that number, right? Like it's not about pushing them in, pushing them out. And we've seen now, because we've been in leadership for a while, when individuals don't take a pause and they get caught up in this misnomer, this society norm of like, if I don't produce, then I'm not a good employee. And they get so paranoid in that space because they're not supported, that then they make mistakes. And then I have to go in and say, when was the last time you ate? When was the last time that you slept? When, like, why are you burning the candle on both ends when you know that's when big things can happen, right? It took like those incidences and supervisors to tell me it's not selfish, but it's also a mandate of our job that when we do something, we do it well.
Yes.
And it takes a lot of lecturing. Have you had to have those conversations of convincing colleagues or others of the importance of acknowledging vicarious trauma?
Absolutely. 100%. And as you know, we were supposed to have you last semester come to campus to put on a training, and then things happened with scheduling and things. And so it's still on the calendar for, you to come to campus. And it's my push for this upcoming semester, because having conversations and one-on-ones with my staff members, having conversations with colleagues, with faculty members as they're, calling and wanting to talk to me about things that they're experiencing with students in their classrooms.
Right.
It's a thing where I'm mentioning, are you aware of the work that, I always say, my good friend, we go way back. Are you aware of the work that Dr. Jill is doing and has been doing around vicarious trauma? And then I take this step further and I say, she's been maneuvered and operating in this for as long as I've known her. And I said, and it's important for us to acknowledge that this is real. This isn't just something that is a buzz phrase or a word, or it's not something that is like, oh, that's not real.
Right.
You're hypersensitive. No, that's not that. No. So having those conversations to say, no, acknowledge, be radical in accepting that this is what you are feeling, this is what you're experiencing. And then that way we can begin to talk about how to heal, cope, and deal with, especially if you're going to be staying in these professions where we're helping others. And even if it's not a profession, in our daily lives, right? We're encountering just with our loved ones.
Yeah.
And so, yeah, having these conversations with colleagues, staff members on an, I want to say daily basis, but that may be a bit of hyperbole. So I'll say at least weekly, I'm having a conversation about radical self-care. What does that look like in these spaces?
It's so interesting because if we were on like some kind of game show and there was like 3 higher ed practitioners and 3 doctors behind the like wall, and we had to ask the same questions to all 3, and then we picked who our doctor would be and who our higher ed practitioner. If it was like, have you slept? Have you drank? Have you take care of yourself? Have you gone from case to case to case? Have you used your vacation? Like, we would be able to weed out very quickly who we wanted to serve us.
Yes.
I don't want a doctor that's been on 4 days, 4 nights without a break, without sleep, right? And so it's interesting that we have to convince our colleagues of what our expectation is of other helping professions.
Yes. One thing that I am proud to say that in the time that I've been in my current position, my team has on numerous occasions thanked me for modeling for them what it means to put oneself first while also meeting the expectations and the demands of the job.
What a nice compliment.
And I'm like, thank you. That is what I am hoping to, outside of course, leave an impact, right? On the institution as a whole, on students, 100%. But for my team, when I interviewed Jill, one of the things that I said during the interview, and I remind folks on campus often, because I said, I told you all this when I interviewed and you all still chose me. I said that I put my staff first, because if I put the staff first, then the students will be taken care of.
Yes.
And so for my team, it's a thing where if I awake, let's say a morning, and I already have a headache, right? It's 4:50 in the morning. I am getting up and I awake with a headache. And I'm laying there, right? And I'm thinking about if I could do another hour before I jump in the shower to get myself together.
Right.
If I'm in that space, I know that today is a day that I may not show up as my best self, and I need to take a moment. And so I am going to use the time that I've earned to take the day to do what I need to do so that I can show up tomorrow and then start checking off everything that I need to accomplish. And so I encourage my team to do the same thing. Take your time off. If you need the time, take it. Communicate, of course, right? But use your time. Make sure that if there's meetings scheduled, you have those things taken care of. And if you can't, because it's that, dire, then text me, email me,
figure it out.
Email me, and then I can step in as I should and do what I need to do. But for sure, got to take your time.
That communication is vital too. So you're doing a lot. We haven't even talked about your research area, but what is the latest and greatest that you can share with our listeners today about what you're working on that we might be interested in?
So I have been doing talks. My research and my interest is on the lived experiences, specifically of Black women in higher education. And most recently, I did a book reading at the local library. And there was so much conversation around how this space hasn't been curated for folks to come together to share their experiences, Black women specifically, to share their experiences in the workplace, and not only share their experiences, but share strategies for navigating and radical acceptance and radical self-care. And so I should say, I will be hosting Thriving Thursday Lives. It'll be in a virtual setting. And I post on Instagram all the time, every Thursday, Thriving Thursdays, where I share some tips on how to navigate spaces and how to lead a life of wholeness and healing. And I think that that is one of the ways that folks who are interested in, the work that I'm doing to be connected. My Instagram is at Kelly Corinne Unlimited. And so, yeah, feel free to follow me there and stay abreast on what's coming up.
I think that's really important, because onto that idea of a protective factor, this is someone, you, Kelly, can be a protective factor for others. Like, you're creating your own village of a need to support each other. So I hope that listeners find that to be a really helpful connection, that we're able to plant that seed today. Our time is up, but I have asked every participant to leave with like one word or one phrase to spill the beans. What would that be for our listeners today?
A phrase.
You've dropped so many. I mean, it's hard.
One phrase that I would leave is you have everything that you need within you. You just have to find the ways to unlock it. It's a long phrase, but that's the phrase. You have everything you need within you. Find the ways to unlock it.
Thank you, Kelly. I would also tie in that you've given us some more language and permission to say no, to look at the boundaries, to assess what you need, communicate that, to not be bashful. Like, you've given us a lot of gems to understand what we need to nurture our vicarious trauma, because we're not eliminating it, because we're not leaving the field. We're just acknowledging what we need to thrive and not just survive, and fall more in love with our job instead of going towards the burnout. So
yes,
I thank you
100%.
so much for your time today, Kelly. It's so good to see you.
Thank you,
You
Jill.
all for joining us on today's episode. See you soon. Hi, everyone. Thank you for watching for today's episode of Spill the Beans. I wanted to reflect on what Dr. Kelly Hope had shared with us. As I reiterate, she dropped so many gems, but she left us with this phrase of, you have everything that you need within you. You just have to unlock it. I found that to be very interesting, especially during trying times. Often we look to other sources, whether that's our faith or mentors, family members, looking for guidance. If you paused and thought for a minute that you have the answers, they're just within you. I think that some silence, some reflection might be able to help find your path. And I want to reiterate that in those moments of bad days at work, because of the vicarious trauma that you're carrying, it's really important that you take care of yourself. Okay, that's all I have for today. I hope you enjoyed the episode. I know that I loved spending time with Kelly as one of my oldest and dearest friends, who's such a bright and intelligent, thoughtful change agent, a beautiful educator, a well-written author, and someone that has always had the best interests of others in mind, and has recently learned how to put herself first. I appreciated how authentic she was with us, and that we were able to laugh together. I think one of the best medicines is being able to spend time with a friend, someone that you could be your authentic self without judgment. And I was able to do that today. So thank you. Bye-bye all.